I just found out that my terrible dad who has neglected me isn't my biological father. Today, I called him by his name and he was crushed. I am the oldest of 4 siblings. I have been treated like the black sheep in the family for as long as I can remember. On birthdays, I never had any, just a cupcake from my mom and no presents. I wasn't allowed to have friends over. Christmas was never something I looked for at most because I would only get some socks while I had to look at the presents my dad, aunts, uncles, and grandparents gave my siblings. New bikes, the latest fashion clothes, phones, game consoles, games, you name it, they got it. I was never allowed on family trips and vacations. I was left behind to stay with my grandparents, who were strict on everything I did, and sometimes, they would just call on someone else to pick me up while I was supposed to stay with them. When I was at home I mostly stayed in my room and studied. It didn't matter how well I did in school or sports, my dad showed no interest. Yesterday, I came home from work late, tired, and just wanted to go to bed. I opened the door to hear my mom arguing with my dad and aunt about me. I could hear my aunt saying I should be more grateful to my dad. Then they saw me in the doorway and stopped. My mom and dad looked like they had seen a ghost, while my aunt announced, "And in comes the bastard." I was shocked to hear her say that. I know she did not like me and mostly ignored me when we were in the same room. But I got angry and asked her to repeat what she said. My dad quickly stopped her, but no, I wanted to know why I should be grateful for it. So I asked what was going on. No one said anything for a while. So I asked again and became grateful for being ignored, neglected, and abandoned while my siblings were spoiled and played happy family with dad. As soon as I said dad, my aunt shouted that I was not his son. I was shocked by what she said, and I asked my dad if it was true. He looked at me and just said, "I am sorry." I don't know what to say. I looked at my mom and she said nothing. I left my room and just started crying. Later, my mom found me on the floor shaking and crying. She helped me up and stayed with me until I fell asleep. I woke up this morning and called in sick. I barely left my room today. I feel like everything I have done to make the man I call dad proud or just to acknowledge me has been a waste of my life. On Thursday, before I left for work in the grocery store, my father, whom I will refer to as Richard, called out to me, and I responded by saying, "Yes, Richard?" He looked confused because I had always called him dad before. After a bit of silence, I asked what? Quite bluntly. He didn't respond and told me it was nothing, so I went to catch the bus. When I got home late in the evening, my mom wanted to know why I called her husband by his first name. I told her he never treated me as anything closely as a son, so why should I call him dad anymore? She had no answer, and she told me he was hurt by it. I wanted to scream when she said that. I told my mom that I couldn't get over the fact that for all these years how I had been treated and neglected by Richard and his side of the family. And she watched it happen, and I need to know why. She started to tear up and just told me how sorry she was and kept on saying "I am so sorry" over and over. It hurt me in that moment to see my mom cry, and I tried my hardest to keep my emotions in, and I asked her again why. After some time, when she calmed down, she told me what happened. She got pregnant with her ex and he abandoned my mom. She got a job at a cafe house and there she met Richard. He was a regular customer and they got to know each other. Richard asked her out, and even though she told him she was pregnant, he didn't care at the time. Richard's parents were not happy about the idea that their son was dating a pregnant woman. They made plans to get married soon after I was born. Richard never showed any interest in me when I was born, but my mom lived with the hope that one day he would. After hearing all of that, I didn't know what to say for a while. I asked her why Kay was hurt by me calling him his first name. For the past few years, he has been living with this guilt and he has been afraid to confront it. So when I called him by his first name, he realized that he had lost me. Then I asked her why I was left with people who abused me physically, mentally, and emotionally while they went on trips and vacations. She was shocked to hear about the physical abuse and asked me about it. I told my mom that I never said anything at the time because I was afraid of Richard's family members. My grandparents would scold me loudly and hit me when I was younger. My aunt never spoke to me unless she needed a favor, only to then go back to ignoring me and told me to stay in the guest room. When I was 14, my father took the family on a 2-day trip to Croatia. He left me with his older brother. He asked me to go to the store to buy some stuff. And of course, I said yes. When I came, he opened the door, took the bags, and locked me out of the house. I sat there crying until they had all finished with their dinner, and then he let me in. She cried the whole time while I told her everything. She told me how sorry she was. She knew they didn't like me, but this was just hate. After the conversation, she asked if I was going to move out and where. I told her I was planning on it and that I would not tell her because I didn't want them to know where I would be staying. She started to cry again. And again. It hurt to see her cry. The conversation was long and lasted for several hours, but these are just the main points. After that, I went to my room to clear my head and think. About an hour later, someone knocked at my door. It was Richard. It was the first time since I can remember he ever entered my bedroom. He looked around for a bit. He looked shelf where I kept all of the awards and trophies from school and sports. He was both surprised and sad when he saw the medals. From when I did track and field and played football. He stopped when he saw the small man of the match award and picked it up. He held it for a while and started to tear up. He put it back and sat down on the bed. Neither of us said anything for a while. I asked if Mom had told him what we had talked about. He was still tearing up and slightly nodded his head. I asked him if he was aware of how I saw him, and he nodded again and whispered yes. So you know the extent of what our parents and siblings have put me through. He looked me in the eye and asked if it was true. I said yes, and he just started full on crying. After a while, he stood up and hugged me. This was the first time he had ever hugged me and cried in front of me before. I just hugged him back and started to cry. He didn't want to let go and he said how he was sorry for the pain he put me through, for the years of neglect, for treating me like an outsider, and he begged me not to move out. When he finally let go, he asked to be given a chance. I told him that maybe with time I could forgive him and Mom, but they had to earn it. But I won't forgive his family for the things they had done. He was hurt by it but accepted it. For now, I am not moving out.